Welcome back. In this sixth video, we'll get the nav mesh agent sort of working here so that the mummy can chase us, and then we'll sort of work on a attack so that the mummy will actually come at us and then attack us. So I'm just sort of, looking at our terrain here. And so what we need to do is basically put on sort of a nav mesh agent onto this. And so to do that, I believe we can come under Window, and then I always got to find this spot here. Where is it? Is it component? New window. Infinite animation. I got to find this here. Sequence. There is. Oh, AI, right? AI navigation. Sorry. So under there, what it does is it will automatically put it on the terrain. The terrain's already been sort of marked. And so what we do, we won't worry about this with the heights and everything, but I should be able to bake this here, and it turns everything blue, which indicates that everywhere is navigable by this mesh. And I think with just that, now the mummy should be able to follow us. So let's just go in here and hit play, and let's just see the magic. Yes. And so what's really cool about it, right, is with just doing that, the mummy, with one animation, first of all, just the walk forward, or walk animation, the mummy will follow us. And as you can see, it does a pretty good job there. Now, there is ways of, well, it's going backwards a little bit. There's a few little tweaks that we might have to do. One of the things that we can do, I'll just let them attack me, is play with the speed of it. So if we go back to our mummy, we should have our animation on it. Sorry, in our specter, we got to get rid of this. Just be careful of that. There is a speed there, so you can reduce the speed. I think this is how quickly it can turn as well. Acceleration stuff. You can play around with these here to get the proper thing. But we'll just sort of drop the speed down. If I hit lower speed, right, we want him to be a bit smaller. You might have to slow the animation down too. That's not too bad, although he does look like he's kind of walking in place a little bit. I think we'll pump up his speed a little bit, maybe just about 2.5 or so. Oops, there we are. So that looks reasonable. Okay, but again, we can modify this later on, right? We've just created one mummy, and that's about it there. Okay, so yeah, we're doing pretty good here. What we'll do next, like I said, is get him to attack us. So to do that, we've got him moving, chasing us. We're going to go back to the animator. And I think if we just make sure we're on that animator, we'll be good. Or we're on the mummy, we should be fine. Go to the animator. And we've just got the walk in here, right? So we're going to have to bring in another one. So I think it is under our packages and our Infinity PBR. And this is where I couldn't remember before. I think it's under this one. Let's just see here. There's so many of them. Is it under our under models? That's right. And we'll just bring in the attack one animation. Okay, so I'm just going to drag that in, and it's just sort of sitting there, and then we'll get it working here. So with this, to go from our walk to attack, we're basically going to make sure that he gets into a certain range. So when he's close enough, he'll attack. And so that'll basically be what we're going to call a trigger here. So I'm going to come under the parameters, so make sure under parameters, add a plus, and we'll add a trigger. And we'll call that trigger attack. All right. And so we're going to create a transition here between walk and attack. So I'm going to make transition and drag it down to attack. And I think we can click on this. This will give us our transition here. So let me just pull this down. There we go. I don't like when it's above there and hiding this, but there we go. Because there's our condition. And so for this one, we're going to turn off has exit time, because basically once he gets close enough, we want him to go right into an attack. So we're going to turn this on and put attack there. We need to go back the other way. So I'm going to make a transition, just go back the other way. Now this one I'm going to leave with the exit time. Oops, got to click on it. There we go. I'm going to leave the has exit time, because we don't want him to halfway through the attack sort of stop. He's going to finish the attack and then go to the walk. So that's why we're going to keep it on there. And this also will be sort of, I think with the attack there. That might be wrong, but I think we have to make sure that the attack trigger is kind of off. So if we have this here, we should be able to sort of manually get this to work. We don't have any script yet. We're going to have to go into our script and get that to do the transition. But I think if we, let me just see here. I'm going to pull this down. If I've got room, kind of create another window. I'm going to mess things up here a little bit. Let's just move this. I guess I could have done this before. There we go. Just sort of moving this. I'll move this down a bit so we can just sort of see. I'm just going to manually, actually, I guess I just need this. I'm just going to manually turn on the attack here because it's like a trigger. So I can turn it, it's like a switch, turn on off. So if I can't zoom in on that, let's just see if I zoom in on the scene. Okay, so there's the mummy. If our attack is on, he swipes it. And then now it hasn't gone back into the transition because we haven't turned it off. But there you can see, and then he's going there. So we still need to get it back to going back off. Let me just see if I can fix that, the attack. I think we're okay. I think it would just be with the script there. But yeah, we've got that working pretty well. Yeah, it might be with this condition. So if I get rid of that condition, just a second here. There, get rid of that. Just let's see how that works here. So he comes and attacks, then we can turn the attack on, and then it goes back there. So that might be what we want, so he doesn't double, triple attack. We'll have to play with that a little bit. But the big idea is that if we go back to our script and just sort of put this in, we'll do the script a little bit more here. But the idea would be in this update, I mean, basically, if, and we're going to get some errors here, but if we are in the attack range, right, this is kind of our thought process, then what do we want it to do? Well, then we want it to attack. That's kind of the idea. Obviously, we're getting errors here because we haven't defined any of these, but we want this kind of logic to occur here. All right, so to do this, like I said, this is just kind of our ideas here. What we'll do first is we'll define this attack range. And so what I'm going to come in here, we're going to measure the distance between the player and the mummy here. So we've already got a link or sort of a reference to our player, so we can know where that is. So what I'm going to do is a vector3 dot distance. So this will measure the distance between one object and the other. So obviously the mummy's position, so transform.position, that would be itself, position, and then the other object is going to be our player's transform.position. And what we want to do is, because this is an if statement here, so we have to do comparison, if it is within the attack range, and we'll define that above in a second here. So if, I think we're okay, we need one more. Yes, we need one more parenthesis as well. So this attack range here is just going to be a value. So I'm going to come up to the top here. We'll make that a serialized field so we can modify it if we want. Serialized field. And then the value here would be a float. And I'm going to set it up to, so attack range. I'm going to set it up to a value to begin with. We'll set it up to 1, which is equivalent of a meter. So if it's within a meter, it should be okay. Now we're still getting an error here. Oh, you know what it is? I messed it up. That's the distance, and I don't need this one over here. Sorry about that. Good. So that should work out, right? So this will measure the distance between the player's position, the mummy's position, and the player's position. And if it's less than the attack range, then it should do the attack. Now, the attack here, we'll just get it to play the animation for the moment. So there's nothing big going on. To do that, to actually get it to play the animation, we would need a reference to the animator as well. So I'm going to come back up to here, animator, and we'll just call that with a lowercase animator, right? So Just like before, we grab the nav mesh agent, we got to grab the animator, and so we do the same thing. We need to animator, we got to get that component. And then what we should be able to do here is, instead of the attack, we'll just play that animation. So to play that animation, we had that trigger, right? The attack trigger. So we're going to set that up. So what I'm going to do here is animator.set the trigger. Trigger, there we go. And what we have to do is type in that string, that value that we called it, and I believe we called it attack with a capital A. We could just triple check that. So if we go back there, yeah, so attack, you have to make sure that that's spelled exactly the same. So basically we're going to manually turn on the attack trigger just with our animation here. So let's save that up, give it a little test. I think we're good. No errors. I'm going to pull this back up here. Save us some space. Maybe pull this down. Go back to it. We'll play it here. And yep, it's working, right? He's attacking. So if I move away, not bad, right? He attacks. Now, that's a little bit strange. We might have to stop it. He seems to do a double attack, right? Because he was still in that process. We'll see about that there. But he's definitely moving around. And when he gets close, he attacks. I think that 1 meter works well. If you're finding it didn't work out too well, right? It should be in our serialized field, right? There's our attack range, and you could increase or decrease that value. Good. So I think that's a pretty good, successful video there. We've got the animation on the mummy. He's running around chasing us, and we've got the attack kind of occurring, at least getting that animation going. We'll clean that up a little bit and maybe start putting some damage on there as well in the next video.